Hello, everybody. Hey, my name is Dustin Brady. I'm really excited to be doing this. Thank you for everybody who showed up today. This is very exciting. I'm going to be honest with you. This is a new thing for me. I've not done something like this before. I've done a ton of author visits. It's my favorite thing to do, but streaming like this, I have not done. So I got a very fancy setup here. I have a lot of things going on at once. So I need you all to help me out if something's not working right or if something is off. Let me know in the chat. Type something in the chat. Let me know if it works. I'm not sure if it does, but my name is Dustin Bray. I'm an author. I've written a bunch of children's books. You might know me from Trapped in a Video Game. I'm going to talk about some of the things that I get asked the most during school visits. And so the thing that I want to talk about is a question that I get asked the most. I got asked the most in here. I asked you guys to ask me questions, and so a lot of you did. And the question I said I was going to answer this question. The question that you all asked me is, where do I come up with ideas for stories? And I totally get it. There are when I was first starting out, when I was in school in college, there was assignments like write a story. I'm like, I don't know what to write. My mind would just go blank. And so, anyways, I put together a little PowerPoint. Let's see if this is going to work. It's called Think Like an Author, and I was going to start out with a question. It was a really good question posed by Elijah, and I really like the way he put it. Elijah asks, "How do you come up with ideas?" So I just can't think of one. Everything I think of is from things that are already written. I want to base something off video games, but I don't want to steal other people's ideas. Elijah. Elijah, I have great news for you. I feel the same way sometimes. I have felt the same way sometimes. And so I want to kind of talk about how an author thinks about ideas, how an author comes up with stories, and kind of make it maybe a little bit easier for you. Okay. Elijah, the first thing I want to tell you is that authors steal stuff all the time. And they steal stuff in the same way that a cook might steal something, right? Where you didn't make the bananas, you didn't make the flour, you didn't make the sugar, but you put it together to make a banana cake or banana bread or whatever. And so that's the same way that an author thinks about ideas and thinks about things. The ideas that you have are just ingredients for your story. So the way that I think about it a lot is the pantry. I have a picture of our pantry here. My wife does not know that I took a picture of our pantry. She'd probably be mad that I didn't clean it up. So it didn't even look like a pantry before I showed you. But here's a pantry. And that's the way I like to think of ideas. Where, you have you want a stocked full of ideas that you can kind of pick and choose from when you're coming up with a story, when you're writing a story. And sometimes when comes time to write a story, you might feel like my pantry is empty. I have nothing to even pick from, and that's not good. So I want to kind of, demystify that for you a little bit. And so we're going to do a little exercise called the idea pantry. So the idea pantry is kind of all the maybe the places that you would shop for, all the places that you would go to get ideas to stock your story. I'm going to talk about a couple ones that are pretty common that you might think of that if you heard another author talk, they might say as the first things. But then the last one I'm going to do, it's going to be, I think, the most important thing. I think it's a thing a lot of people don't think about a lot, but I think it's the most important thing. And I think it'll answer the question for you. It'll kind of crystallize things in your head of where, what's a good idea? Where does it come from? Okay. The first place I want to talk about that an idea might come from for your story is something that you might not think of right away. It's a bad idea. So this is a story I have right here. It's called Free. I actually emailed it to you guys when you signed up for the talk. But Free is a short story that I wrote, and you can read it. But it's called Adventures in a Video Game. It's free, and it's about it's just something that I thought would be funny to write. And so I want to talk about where the ideas came from specifically for this story. And the main idea for this story came from, again, the thing I think is a big part of the pantry is a bad day. I mean, like, nobody likes a bad day. I don't like a bad day. You don't like a bad day. But what I found as an author is a bad day brings a ton of ideas for a good story. Nobody wants to hear about your day if nothing exciting happened. Nobody wants to hear about your day if everything went great. But if something went wrong, if you got stuck in traffic, somebody cut you off, somebody was mean to you in a funny way, if everything seemed like it went bad, I found that that's a great spot to start for a story. And that's where the story starts for that thing I showed you free. So I'll give you just a little bit of a rundown of this story. So in this story, it's about two kids who go into a video game, but it's a free game. It's a game that you get on your phone and it's free. So in this world, you can go into a video game, but you have to spend usually a bunch of money to buy a video game to go into. It's a very expensive thing. But this is the first one that you can go into that it's free. But like a lot of free games, it's not really free, right? They always try to get you to buy extra stuff. They always get you to try to spend money in very creative and funny ways. And the idea from this came when I flew a different airline than the one I fly a lot. So when I travel, I a lot of times in the past have liked to travel on Southwest Airlines. Now, Southwest Airlines, they've changed recently, but when I've flown with them a bunch of times in the past, they are very nice to you. They let you pick your seat. You can go in whatever seat you want. They let you bring bags on bags on bags. You can bring your backpack. You can bring a carry-on bag to put up there. They'll let you bring two full-size suitcases for free. If they make a mistake, they are very sorry about it. They'll tell you a bunch of times, and they'll give you a free flight. Southwest Airlines is very different from another airline that I flew recently, and that is this one right here. That is Spirit Airlines. Now, listen, nothing against the fine folks at Spirit Airlines. But Spirit Airlines, I was not ready for you. When you go to Spirit Airlines, you go and you're looking for flights, and flights are always expensive, right? There may be, 100, 200, $300 to go one way. Spirit Airlines will sell you a flight for $20. You can't even take a taxi cab downtown for $20. How are you going to fly across the flight for $20? What is their secret? Their secret, it turns out, is that they just do a bunch of stuff to make you super upset. And so this one of their main secrets is that it costs a lot more a lot of times for your bag, for your little bag to fly on Spirit Airlines than it is for you as a person to fly on Spirit Airlines. Your ticket for your suitcase is more than the ticket for you. And they count on a lot of people not knowing this, and then they charge them $1 billion for the bag, and they get very upset. So when I flew Spirit Airlines, I was like, all right, I'm excited about this. I go, you at Southwest, you go to the counter and somebody's there to greet you with a smile. Spirit Airlines, you go to the counter and they will yell at you to do your stuff at the computer so you don't have to talk to anybody. And if you want to talk to somebody, you can, but it costs extra money to talk to somebody. So that's your first clue that Spirit Airlines is a little bit different. And then you go to Spirit Airlines and then you have your little bag. So you're allowed a backpack. Turns out backpacks fly free on Spirit Airlines. They have not figured out a way to charge you for your backpack. However, they have figured out a way to make you super mad because the backpack can only be so big. And so they have a little container there at Spirit Airlines, and they make everybody put their little backpack in this container. Now, since it costs $1 jillion for your suitcase to fly on Spirit Airlines, people try to stuff all of their belongings into a little backpack. And so they do that, and then they say, put this backpack in this little thing, and of course it doesn't fit. And if it doesn't fit in this little thing, then they charge you like $150, no joke, for this backpack. And so I remember getting on Spirit Airlines with my backpack, watching everybody in front getting yelled at, yelling at the person. I'm like, this is not good. And then you get on the flight, and then I finally got on the flight. They charged a bunch of people a bunch of extra money for their flight. And then you got on the flight, and the seat, I was not used to the amount of room I would have on Spirit Airlines. The amount of room you have on Spirit Airlines is like this. So you're sitting kind of like this a little bit on Spirit Airlines. And Spirit Airlines charges you extra to sit with your loved ones, which is nice. And and you're sitting on there like this. And also, they are late. They are late because they're not a good airline. And so I remember sitting there like that forever. And I'm like, you know what? This is a bad day. This feels like a good start to a story. And so while I was sitting there, I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about all the funny ways that they were charging people, all the funny ways that they were doing those things, that it seemed like this was this free ticket. It seemed like this was this $20 ticket to go to wherever, Aruba, Orlando. And then they charge you $1 billion because they do all these little extra fees. And it reminded me of a game. It reminded me of a game called Candy Crush. I don't know if y'all have ever played Candy Crush. Candy Crush is a game that my mom plays a lot, that I have played before on the phone. Candy Crush is a free game, but Candy Crush spends all of their time on Candy Crush saying, wouldn't it be nice if you gave us money? They're so good at this that Candy Crush has made $20 billion by figuring out a bunch of ways to try to get your money. It's very similar to Spirit Airlines. So the whole time on Spirit Airlines, I was thinking of Candy Crush, all the ways they try to get your money. I was sitting on Spirit Airlines thinking all the ways that Spirit Airlines try to get my money. And an idea came to me that it would be very funny to have somebody that was trapped in a video game that said it was free, but did a bunch of obnoxious things to try to get your money. So that's where that idea came from for this story. It was a bad day. It was a bad flight. I was sitting like this, with a bunch of angry people and a bunch of angry flight attendants because they had to yell at a bunch of people too. And then I just spent the whole flight chuckling and writing down little ideas on my phone about a way where if somebody was in a video game like this video game would go about trying to make them pay extra money. And I think that's a great example of something where it's like you can take a bad day that you have and find the funny in it. You can find the human part of it. There's a lot of books, a lot of stories that have been written from somebody's perspective where something bad happened to them. And in the moment, it was the worst thing in the world. But it's a thing that a lot of people relate to. And hearing about other people's experiences gets other people, makes you feel better. It gets you thinking about your own experiences. And a bad day can be a really good way to start a story. So I'd encourage you to look for, the bad things that are happening to you. Think about how you feel. Think about ways that you could turn that into a story that somebody else would enjoy. Because I'll tell you what, people really like hearing about bad days. All right. So now we have our bad day. And then I think another thing that you can use to stock your idea pantry is the people you meet. Now, here's how I think about this, that I think about things in a certain way. Dustin Brady, have a lot of, I have a solution to this problem based on who I am, the way I think, and the way I do things. And so I think of things one way, but you are surrounded by a bunch of different people that think about things in a bunch of different ways. And you get ideas for your story by watching the people around you, by seeing how they react to things, by thinking of the world through their eyes. And all of a sudden, you come up with a bunch of different ideas that you wouldn't have thought of on your own. You have interactions with people in your story, and your characters start talking like real people instead of everybody sounding like you. Your characters feel real, they look real, because of the people that you met in your life. So I'll give you an example of this. I think it's kind of a funny example, and it is about a person in my life that thinks differently than me. It is my mother-in-law. Her name is Jackie Nero. Here's a picture of Jackie Nero. This is the latest picture I have of her. I'm very sorry. It was Halloween and she dressed up like it's raining cats and dogs. And so she just tied a bunch of cats and dogs on her and was very excited about it. She thinks about things in a very different way from me. She is very, very comfortable on Spirit Airlines because Spirit Airlines is cheap. And she will put up with a lot of things on Spirit Airlines. So one of the ways that she gets around Spirit Airlines is uh, uh, thing about how much you can take on the flight is a way that I would have thought. Like if you would have given me an hour to brainstorm all the things that I can, all the ways that I can get around this, I would not have thought of this. But I know her and I can think of the way she thinks. So the way that she has done in the past, I'm not making this up, this is very true, is that if she's going on a trip for 5 days, she will pack as much as she can in her little backpack that fits in the little thing. And then she will wear the rest of her outfits over each other onto the flight. So she will be on a flight with, five layers of shirts, several pairs of pants, This is not something that I would have thought of, but it is a really good way to get around it, and just by meeting people, just by learning about people, you're going to think of so many new ideas for your stories that you would not have thought of on your own. And so for this story, for free, we have two kids in this story. We have this is Keenan and this is Bo. And so Keenan, I was thinking of Keenan comes from a background where his family doesn't have a ton of money. His family's very frugal. His family spends money in ways that maybe that my mother-in-law might spend money. And then he's friends with a guy named Bo. Bo is the one who's looking a little nervous in that picture. Bo grew up with a lot of money. And if you are around somebody who's grown up with a lot of money, you kind of understand the way they think about money. And Bo's like, you could do this, you could do that, you could do that. And the whole plot kind of kicks off because of the way that Bo thinks about it. Now, I don't think like Bo. I don't necessarily always think like Keenan. But because I've met people like Bo and I've met people like Keenan, I was able to put their personalities in there and come up with an idea for a story. So I hope that makes sense. Meet a lot of people, think about the way that person would do things in real life, and that's going to get you a lot of ideas for your story. Okay. Another thing, so we talked about maybe some big ideas. So the first one, the bad day, that might be a big idea for a story. Your characters, people you meet, those are big ideas for stories. But your story is full of a lot, whether it's a couple pages, whether it's 100 pages or 200 pages, your story is going to have a lot of stuff in it, a lot of tiny details. And so it's up to you to fill your story with tiny details. And this can be a little bit intimidating. If you look at a book, somebody asked me, um, one of the questions was like, how do you come up with enough details for your story? That's one of the things that I thought about the most before I wrote these. Like, it felt very intimidating to write a whole story that was 200 pages because I'd never written anything that was more than a couple pages. And like, that feels like a lot of details, right? Well, fortunately, you live, and you live in a great big world, and there are a lot of little tiny details in this world. And so it's your job as an author if you're going to think like an author, it's going to be your job to pay attention to all that stuff. Look at all that stuff, not just the people you meet, but the things around you. What is going on? Be curious about stuff. Why is that? Pay attention to the things that are fun, things that you like. Um, and so I did this. Like, here's an example from this story. This story, Free, is full of a ton of tiny little details that I have noticed in my life that made it into the story. For instance, one of the ways that in Free that the video game tries to get your money is by selling you cotton candy. Even if you don't like cotton candy in real life, in this video game, the cotton candy tastes like really good, and it tastes like certain things. Like, it's not even a flavor like lemon or lime. They're flavors of experiences of memories they have. And I thought that was a great idea. I thought that could be pretty funny, but now I have to come up with tiny details, those little memories and those little things that I like. So I want to kind of get your brain thinking in this way. And the question I want to pose to you guys is like, what is a little thing that you enjoy? Maybe it's a thing that nobody else would notice, but maybe write in the chat, maybe think about it. What's a little thing that you like, that you enjoy? So here's are some examples kind of from my thing to get started. So one of the tiny little details in here, one of the flavors of cotton candy in here is this first day of summer break. So first day of summer break, like, I remember we would always go, it would be half day at the end of the school year. It's a half day. We'd always go to Burger King, just get a Burger King meal. And that was the best day. Feels like everything is going, it is going to happen over that summer. It feels amazing. So first day of summer break, that is a flavor of candy, uh, cotton candy in this book. Another one, popsicles in the swimming pool. My kids go in the swimming pool all summer. I barely go in the swimming pool. I take care of the swimming pool. Not super fun. They go in the swimming pool and they love it. And so one of the things that they do in the swimming pool, they have those little push-up pops in the popsicle, and they just love it. So that's a little detail I put in there. That's a flavor of cotton candy in the story. Another flavor, unexpected snow day. For me growing up, there was nothing better than a snow day. And even better than that, there's nothing better than an unexpected snow day where they're like, it's going to snow half an inch, and then all of a sudden you wake up and there's a foot of snow on the ground, and there's is no snow. Let's see. Somebody says shit sitting outside in the grass in the shade. That is awesome. Roller skates. That's a great one. Here's another one that I wrote. Perfect boogie board wave. I love boogie boarding. As a kid, I like boogie boarding now. And so just that perfect wave. You're sitting there the whole time, and that wave comes. Somebody wrote, going on the Ferris wheel on Halloween. That is awesome. And yeah, that's like a little detail, a little memory that you have. Here's another one I wrote. First bite of pizza. There's a pizza place by us called Angelo's, and we always go there and sit in there. So you're having it hot. And then it's a hot bite of pizza, and it's the best piece of pizza you'll ever have. A big pile of leaves to jump in. That's great. Just tall enough to ride the big roller coasters. That's another flavor of cotton candy in the story. And then crispy yet tender Brussels sprouts. Listen, I love crispy yet tender Brussels sprouts. My kids think it's gross. My kids think it's disgusting. And so I thought it'd be funny to add that as one of the flavors in cotton candy in the story. And only one kid really likes it, and he's willing to pay a lot of money for it. Let's see. Somebody says Dairy Queen milkshake. Somebody says dunking on your friends, animals, going on Millennium Force at Cedar Point, video games. Yeah. So this kind of get your brain going, and not just like big things that everybody thinks, but what is something that you find really exciting, that is going to be a little detail that you remembered. So try to write that stuff down. Try to think about it. Try to notice those things, because those things are going to make it into your story. Those things are part of your pantry. Now, so let me go over real quick what we've gone over so far, okay? We have our idea pantry. First, we have bad days, okay? Think of bad days that you've had. Think about how that made you feel. Think about maybe some funny things, some over-the-top things that happened on those bad days. I told you about Spirit Airlines and how that inspired a whole story. I'm sure they're very excited about it. Number two is people you meet. So think about people you know. Think about how they're different than you, how they think about how they think about life a little bit differently than you, and start basing people in your book on people that you know. It's really helpful. Another thing is tiny details. So notice tiny little details in your life, and those tiny details, they might not be the big idea for your big story, but you're gonna have to fill your story with details and pick little things from your life and put them in there. Now, those are all things that I think are all great, but there's a big one. There's one left, and that's a big one. And I think this is what people think of when they're like, I need an idea for a story. Because if I would have told you those things, you'd probably like, okay, I know, I need to pay attention more. I need to find things. But, you might not think, hey, I need a big, big, big idea for my story. This doesn't feel big enough. That's probably what Elijah was thinking when he asked his question to me. Like, I know all that stuff, but I want a good idea, a big idea. When somebody asks a lot of times an author, where do you come up with the ideas for your story? A lot of times what they're asking is, hey, it seems like you have good ideas, and it seems like I have bad ideas. Or maybe I have a lot of ideas for a story, and I don't know how to pick a good one. So where do I come up with a good idea for my story? And so I think the big thing, the thing that a lot of people might miss, is this, that a good idea for a story is something that you like. To me, the best stuff, the best ideas that I come up with is stuff that I like. Um, and to kind of tell you what I mean by this, I'm going to answer another question that somebody asked. This is a question that Elsie asked. And Elsie asked, why did I choose to write kids' books? It's a great question, Elsie. Because, you're an author, you can write anything. And honestly, and Elsie, the answer is because I love kids' books. I heard somebody say once that you'll never love a book more than the books that you loved when you were 10 years old. And I found that to be true in my life. I think back on all the books I read, and the ones that stick in my mind the most are the ones that I read when I was a kid. And I always kind of wanted to do something like that when I became an author, something like that when I got older. So the best thing that I ever did as an author, the best thing that I ever wrote, I don't have it anymore. I don't know where it is, but it was a little piece of paper. I had a notebook paper, and I just started writing down a list of all the things I really liked when I was a kid, all the things that I thought about a lot, because I wanted to write my favorite book for when I was 10 years old. And so that's what I did. I made a list of all things that I really liked when I was a kid. And then from that list, I looked on that list and said, okay, what do I think kids today might like? And what do I want to spend time writing about? You see, you're not going to come up with a good, you're not going to come up with a good story if it's about something that you don't like. A lot of times you'll get assigned a story at school, right? Or you're like, I want to write a story that has a good moral or a good message. And that's all good. That's all fine to do. I like writing stuff with good messages and things like that too. But it's always got to have something in there that you love. And so that's where my first book, Trapped in a Video Game, came from. Because I made a list again of all the things I really liked when I was young. And one of the things at the top of that list was this right here. It was a game show. It was called Nickelodeon Arcade. Now, Nickelodeon Arcade was a show that was on in the early 90s. It was on Nickelodeon. I didn't have Nickelodeon because I didn't have cable, but my friend down the street, Anthony Laporta, had cable because Anthony was cool. And I went to Anthony's house, and I remember I watched this show one time, and I thought about it every day after. So I'll tell you a little bit about this show. I'll tell you a little bit about what I liked about it, and then how it inspired Trapped in a Video Game. So on this show, they would ask kids trivia questions about video games. That was most of the show. I don't remember 1 minute of that part. What I do remember is this: at the end of the show, one of the teams wins. They go to commercial break. They come back from the commercial break. The kids that have won are now wearing helmets, and elbow pads, and knee pads, like something big is going to go down. And then these big metal doors open up. Smoke pours out. The kids run through the doors. Doors close. TV turns on, and all of a sudden, those real kids are now inside of a real video game from the 1990s. They are running and they're jumping across platforms. They're dodging robots. They're dodging lasers. They're collecting coins. I remember this extra, like this boss level at the end, where there was a flying magic carpet that the kids were on a magic carpet. And they were fighting this boss on a magic carpet, and I didn't know how they did it. I didn't care how they were doing it. I didn't care if they were using green screens or whatever. I wanted to go on the show and I wanted to go into a video game, and I thought about it every day afterwards. So that's when it came time to write a book. I wrote it and I called it Trapped in a Video Game. Here's a thing of what Trapped in a Video Game looks like. And I put all the stuff that I would have loved to have read as a kid in that book. When I was a kid, I did not like reading descriptions, so there are not a lot of descriptions in that book. I didn't care about what people were feeling when I was a kid, so I didn't write there's not a lot of people feeling stuff in these books. There is a lot of action. There's a lot of cliffhangers. There's a lot of funny parts because that's what I would have loved as a kid. And I just made it totally something that I would have loved when I was 10 years old. And this thing, like I always, the thing that kept me from writing a book for a long time is it felt long and it felt intimidating. Trapped in a Video Game is 142 pages long. And I felt like I did not have 142 pages worth of ideas. But you know what? I had a lot of passion for Nickelodeon Arcade when I was a kid. I like video games a lot. And when it comes time when I started writing about that, I found that my idea pantry was totally full. It was totally full of ideas. It was totally full of video games that I liked, and I think that's the key, is to find something that you really like, that you're really passionate about. A lot of times, kids write to me and they're like, "Hey, you should write. I have a good idea for a story." And then they give me a really good idea for a story. And that really good idea for a story would be a really good idea for them, but it's not a really good idea for me because it doesn't speak to me. A lot of kids want me to write about, Minecraft. Now, listen, I'd make a lot of money if I wrote about Minecraft. I have nothing against Minecraft. I've never played Minecraft in my life. It's just not a thing that like it was a thing that came around when I was a little bit older, and so I just never connected with it. And so but there's a lot of kids where if they wrote about Minecraft, they could write a 200-page book because they love it. And so I think that you don't have to be concerned about stealing somebody else's idea. There's a lot of books, a lot of stories that have been written about people being trapped in video games, but there's only one that reads like my book, Trapped in a Video Game, because I wrote about it. Because I have a different idea pantry than everyone else. I have a different life that I've lived. I know different people. I think different ways. And so don't be too scared about thinking of ideas from other people, thinking of ideas about stories and things that you like, because I think that's going to get you started on writing something really, really, really good. Okay. Um, I want to answer another question at this time because it kind of leads into the next thing I wanted to talk about that goes along with this idea. I'll answer two questions. One, Jameson asks this. Jameson asks, What do you do to help you when you get stuck writing and can't think of what else to write? And then Mackenzie asked a question that feels very different, but it actually ties into this question beautifully. And Mackenzie's question was this. Mackenzie asked, which of the books you've written is your favorite and why? And the answer is they both come down to this book right here, World's Worst Time Machine, Treasure in the White City. Let me tell you about World's Worst Time Machine, Treasure in the White City. Okay. That's the second book in my World's Worst Time Machine series. I love the way the first book turned out. I thought it was really fun. And then I came time to write the second book and I got stuck. I got stuck in the way that Jameson talked about. What do you do when you get stuck writing and can't think of what else to write? This book was super hard for me to figure out. I started it and stopped it, started it and stopped it, started and stopped it a bunch of times. Usually a book takes me like 3 or 4 months to write. This one took 8 months to write, because which is, too many months according to my editor. But I just couldn't figure it out, and so I got stuck, and it was really hard. And so the reason that this book is my favorite is because I stopped. I remember one day it was Thanksgiving. This book was due in December. I was on chapter 2. It was not going to get done in December. And I remember it was Thanksgiving morning. It was early, and I woke up early, and I was pacing around my basement over and over and over again, saying, what is wrong with the story? What can I do for the story? And trying to figure out what to do with the story. I was out of ideas. And then I thought about it a little bit more, and I thought, what am I excited about for this story? I wrote this whole story because I was excited about the twist that I had come up with for the ending. I was really excited about that twist, but the problem is a twist at the end is not the whole story. It is like one little bit at the end of the story, and then there's this whole story before it. And I was not excited about the rest of the story. I wasn't excited about the type of story I was telling, and I was just like, what needs to happen here? And that's what a lot of times people think of a story that way. What do I need to do to get this character from this point to this point? What do I need to do in the story to teach this lesson? What do I need in this story? And so I kind of came at it from a different angle. What would I love to see in this story? And the thing that I came up with was a little bit weird. I wouldn't have thought about it if I wouldn't have thought it from this way, but I thought it would be really fun to have them. They go back to the 1893 Chicago World Fair. And so I thought it'd be really fun if a bunch of other time travelers went there and they were all trying to like get something. They were all trying to get each other, and these people from the future had like crazy weapons that these kids don't have, and then you never know who is a time traveler, who is like a regular person from the fair. You never know what's going to happen next, and so to me that felt really really exciting. That felt like something that I would love to write about and I would love to have read about as a kid, and that unlocked everything for the story for me, and so that became my favorite story. I think it's my favorite again because I just love the way that that story came together. I feel pretty proud of myself for figuring it out. And again, it's something that I would have genuinely loved to see as a kid. So if you're stuck, a lot of times what I do is I stop and I think, why don't I like this story? What is about this story that I don't find fun right now? Sometimes it's a character is acting in a way that's not very fun. Sometimes it's just like that was not an exciting chapter. And I want every chapter that I write to be the potentially somebody's favorite chapter that they have read of mine. And so when I approach it from that way, I come up with a lot of different ideas. Okay. So kind of go back a little bit. I've given you a lot of different places where to get ideas. If you want to get ideas for your story, if you say, hey, I want to start my story now, here's something, here are a couple of things that you can do. Okay. First thing to get more ideas is to read more. All right. I think one of the reasons that I am an author today, and one of the reasons that I write the kinds of books I wrote right today, is that I read a bunch of different books as a kid, and I figured out what I like, and I read the books that I liked over and over and over again, and so that stuff is in my brain. Then when it comes time to come up with ideas for books, I can kind of go back and think, what are the books that I liked reading as a kid and why? What did I like about those books? And that gives me a lot of good ideas. Another way that you can get more ideas for your books is to observe, to be really observant. Throughout your life, you have eyes, you have ears, Pay attention to people. Pay attention to people. How that's interesting that they would do that in that situation. That's a funny way that they say this. And you went by meeting new people, by observing people, by observing just things in your life. This is the why this is what's going on. Why is this way? By just observing things, paying attention, maybe what you like about something, what you don't like about something. That's going to stock your idea pantry with a lot of different ideas. Another thing that I'm not very good at, but a lot of people are as an author, and I think that you should do it. I don't think it's good that I do this, is to write stuff down. What I mean by is maybe to keep a little journal, write down, hey, this was something that happened today that was funny. This is something that happened today that was interesting. I like this. This person said something, and it really got my brain going. Okay, write stuff down. The last thing is something that I use a lot when I'm stuck, and that's to brainstorm. So I sometimes feel like my brain pantry is empty and I have no ideas. And I will sit down and I'll think, hey, what is the next thing that could happen in this story? And then I'll just start writing down a bunch of ideas on a scrap piece of paper. It's not going in my story. There's no pressure on it. But all of a sudden, I just come up with a bunch of ideas of things that I did not even remember was in my brain because I took 5 minutes to write a bunch of ideas down. Okay. So those are some things that you can do to get more ideas for your story. I think if you do these things, you'll come up with a story that you're really, really excited about. A good idea is a good idea if it's going to get you excited to write, because that's the main thing, is just get excited to write, write that story, start that first chapter and carry it all the way through to the end. I'll answer another question here. The next question I have is Harrison. Harrison is like, I don't know, Harrison, you're like my publicist. You ask, do I have any books coming out soon? Why, yes, Harrison, I do. I have a book coming out next week. And it is this book right here. It is called Adventures in a Video Game, Never Trust a Robot. So this is a book that I'm really excited about. That honestly, I've told people this that when I was a kid, I don't know if this is the best book I've ever written. It's not right, I still really like the Time Machine book that I showed you guys. But when I was a kid, I really think this would have been my favorite book as a kid because of a couple things that it does. I'm not going to give those things away. I don't want to spoil it for you guys because this book takes a lot of twists and turns. But I wanted to show you some ideas, some places where ideas came from for this book. I can't show you everything because, again, I don't want to spoil some stuff that happens in this book. But one of the things, this book is about a kid named Diego. He wakes up on a desert island. He doesn't remember who he is. He doesn't remember how he got there. He doesn't even know his name. All he knows is that there's this very friendly robot here named Robbie who kind of seems like he's trying to kill him. And so that's kind of the idea for the book. And again, I don't want to give too much more away, but this book started because I sat back and I thought, what are some things I liked as a kid? What are some dynamics that I would have liked? What are some video games that I liked as a kid? And one of those things was this one right here is a video game called Myst. Now, Myst is an old game. It came out in like the early 90s. But it's like a puzzle kind of game. I was a nerdy kid and I liked puzzles. And so Myst, you kind of go, you show up on this island and you click around the island and there's puzzles and you have to figure out how to, what to do on this island. And so I like that. So I wanted an island with puzzles that's like mysterious. So that's where one bit of the idea came from. Another bit of the idea came from a movie that we taped on TV. I remember as a kid, and we watched this videotape of this movie that we taped with commercials on TV a bunch of times. It's called What About Bob? It's an old movie, but it's about this guy who's very friendly, and then he drives this other guy crazy. And so that's kind of the premise of the movie. And so I just like that dynamic of somebody who's like very, very friendly and who makes somebody else crazy. The last thing that was maybe an inspiration that I'll reveal to you is another video game. It's called Portal. And Portal is another puzzle game, but it's got this really interesting thing where there's like a computer talking to you, and the computer, again, is like kind of really peppy and happy, but it is absolutely trying to kill you. And again, that kind of goes in with the What About Bob thing, and I just like that dynamic a lot. So those are all things that went into the creation of that book. If you want that book, if you want any of my books, I wanted to give you guys something special for doing it. Now, obviously, there's no pressure, no anything. But if that seems like something that's interesting to you, if you want some of my books, I want to do something special for people who are on the stream. And so I have a uh, discount code. So if you go to my website, dustinbradystore.com, it's a different website from the one that you logged on to get here. And then use the promo code homeschool. You will get this free poster. So I'll sign this poster. It's on the screen here. It is also behind me on the wall right back here. It's a 7 by 17 poster for Trapped in a Video Game that I had made. It was very cool. I like the way it turned out. So I'll sign that poster for you. I'll also give you a signed card of this free book right here. So this free story and sorry. And then this other story is called 1v1. I'll sign this for you. And I will also give you a bookmark. So I'll put all that stuff in your order for free. You put in the code homeschool on the cart, not on the page where you check out. I don't know why it doesn't work on there. I couldn't figure it out. If you can't figure it out, just email me and I'll make sure I give you that stuff. But buy anything on my website there. I'll sign the book for you, and I'll give you something else there. And so if you already have the books, if you don't, if that doesn't appeal to you, no worries, that's fine. Just want to tell you about that. I wanted to answer a couple more questions for you guys. You guys have been very active in the chat, and this is my first time doing this. I'm very bad at looking at the chat, looking at you, thinking of what I'm going to say. But right now, I'm going to answer a couple questions that you all sent in. And I want you guys to, in the chat, write some more questions for me, and I'll answer a couple questions from the chat, a couple questions from the emails that you guys wrote in. Okay. Let's see. Question number one is from Crandall. What is the book that I read that inspired me to be an author? It's a good question, Crandall, because I read a ton of books when I was a kid. One of the books that I read and I thought about a lot and I really liked was this one, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I like, again, it has a little bit of that, like, Willy Wonka is very friendly, but he does kind of seem like he's trying to kill these kids. And, it's just fun. And a lot of that made it into the free story that I did. I'm very proud of the ending of that story. It kind of makes fun of Willy Wonka in some pretty fun ways. So that's one of the books that I wrote. Let's see. I have a question. It's from Janelle. And it's who does the illustrations in your books? It's a great question. My brother Jesse did the illustrations for all my Trapped in a Video Game books. He did the illustrations for the Adventures in Video Game books, the robot books. So he does a lot of my stuff. I'm very lucky to have a brother who's great at art. I have another illustrator. His name is Dave. Dave Barden. He's from California, and he did my World's Worst Time Machine books. He's also doing a graphic novel with me. It's going to come out in a couple years. It takes a while to make a graphic novel, but I'm really excited to work with Dave. He's very, very talented. Um, Let's see. Let me go on to the next question on here. This is a good one. Troy asked, what was the first book idea I had as a kid? It's a great question, Troy. That goes along with kind of what I was talking about before, was stuff that I like. And I remember as a kid in school, we had to read, like, we had a book with a bunch of different stories in it. It was like our reading book or whatever. And one of the stories I thought was very, very funny. And it was about a bunch of food in a kitchen that gets in a fight. And I just thought, and they came to life and they got in a fight, and I just thought it was very funny. And so I decided to do something very original, which was write about a bunch of things in the bathroom that got together and fought. And I remember writing a short story about that. And I remember, like, the main character was the glass on the window. And growing up, I had a window in our bathroom that was like had like swirls in it, so you couldn't see inside because it's a bathroom. And so the glass on the window was really sad because nobody could see through it. And he was the hero of the book. I don't remember what he did that was heroic, but I remember that glass in the window like that. Um, let's see. Somebody asked, do I like burgers? Yeah, burgers are great. How old am I? It's a great question. I am almost 40. I'm almost 40 years old. Now I look like I'm like 25, but I am 40. I've been writing these books since I was 30 years old. So I've been writing books almost 10 years. right, I'll go to the next question you guys wrote in, and that's this. Do I research information for my stories, and what sources do I get most of my information from? Zane asked that question. And there's another question, Oliver. What are some of my favorite video games? Zane, great question, because your question goes with Oliver's because I write a lot about video games, so I can research by playing video games. It's a great loophole as an author, and I really am very happy that I figured it out. So sometimes I'll do research by going and playing a video game that I love, and I might get yelled at, "Why are you playing video games?" And I have to say I'm doing book research, and so it's really fun. My favorite video game of all time is Super Mario Brothers 3 for the old NES, Oliver. I got that video game when I was 6 years old, and I remember it was the first game I ever got. And I think it still holds up today. You can play it on the Switch, go back and do that, and it's really, really good. It's my favorite video game. Let's see. Let me go look at a couple more. What is my favorite animal? Oh, that's a good question. My favorite animal is a wombat. They're just like kind of fluffy and funny. They're from Australia, and I don't know why as a kid I decided my favorite animal was a wombat, but I've stuck with it, and it is. So, I have a book, Escape from a Video Game, Secret, or it's what is it called? I'm looking up here, Mystery on the Starship Crusader. And that one, there's a Wumbo Wombat, and that's a fun character. I have another book series coming up, and I have a character named Ella the Wombat, named after my daughter Ella. So my favorite animal is a wombat. All right, here we go. Let's go to another question on here. I just put some fun ones at the end. Are you still bad at Super Smash Bros, Marcus? Yes, in my book I said I get crushed in Super Smash Brothers by my brothers, and by my friend Eric. I named the main characters in Trapped in a Video Game Eric and Jesse after my brother Jesse, my friend Eric. So I play Super Smash Bros with Eric, Jesse, and my brother Scott. And we still play them today. We play it like online. We used to play it online because Jesse lived far away. Jesse moved very close, and so just the other day I played in real life Super Smash Bros with Jesse and Scott, and I'm happy to confirm that I'm really bad at it. This time was, I think, the first time my kids have watched me play Super Smash Bros. They were there too, and they seemed kind of disappointed in how bad their dad was at it. Let's see. Uh, Jameson asked, "Do my kids like to read my books?" That's a good question, Jameson. So I have a book series called Layla and Nugget Mysteries. It's based on my dog Nugget and my daughter Layla. Layla is in third grade, and so I read those books to her when she was a kid, and she enjoyed them. And she's going back and has read. She's going back and reading them now, and so that's fun to see. Here we go. We'll answer one more question from Francisco. What is your favorite ice cream flavor? Great question. I really like there's a Mitchell's by us. It's a local ice cream chain, and they have one that is chocolate and or they have like these chocolate chunks and dark chocolate chunks and raspberry. So raspberry dark chocolate chunk is awesome. Um, let me see if I can answer one or two more from the chat. Let's see. Let me go through. What is my favorite food? That is a great question. My favorite food is chicken wings. I really like chicken wings. The problem is chicken wings. My belly is too old now, almost 40, to handle chicken wings. And the other day I ate too many chicken wings before bed, and I was up for like 3 hours, and I just felt awful the whole time. That is how old I am. I cannot eat chicken wings, but it's my favorite. Um, and then what did I study in college? That's a great question. So I studied writing, and I studied all kinds of different writing because I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to go to work at a newspaper when I got older. And so I did. That was my first job out of college, and it was great. But I always kind of wanted to do something like this. And so that journalism background, it gave me, it really kind of honed my writing in a way where I can write really concise, really short stuff, but try to be interesting. Like that's the whole point. In newspaper, I worked at a magazine after that, and that's kind of how it is in a magazine too. So I worked on that stuff, and then I got to do this, which is cool. A couple people asked about movies. Somebody says movie, somebody says movie, and then somebody else asked about a movie. And so yes, we have worked on for a while a movie for Trapped in a Video Game. I think some of you guys I've told about that, some of you guys know about that. And so an update on the movie is unfortunately the studio that it was with went under. They went out of business, which is not good. So we're talking to some other studios that are interested in it. We'll see what happens there. Also, just very recently, I've talked to a producer and a team that's working on something for World's Worst Time Machine. I think I've told some of you that World's Worst Time Machine is my favorite series I've written, so I think it'd be awesome if that turned into a movie. But that's still a long way away, so who knows if something like that would happen. So, anyways, you guys have been awesome. I felt a little awkward doing this. I'm usually, can see the kids that I'm talking to, and I love doing that. This whole time I've been staring at myself. And so I keep saying a million times because I'm just watching myself say and I'm getting in my own head. There's been a million things going on where I'm looking at this screen, I'm looking at this screen, and I'm looking at you. So y'all have been very patient, y'all have been very enthusiastic in this chat. You've been very, very nice. A lot of you guys ask questions in here. A lot of you guys ask questions when you send them in. And so what I'm going to do just this time, what I want to do is I'm going to try to answer everybody's questions. I'm going to try to email you and answer your questions. So if I didn't answer on here, I'll try to email you and answer. I want to grow this thing. I have a lot of different ideas of stuff that I want to talk to you all about. I love doing this and I love that you all showed up. So if you want to support me, you can certainly buy my books. You can read them if you'd like. If you don't like, that's fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But if this was helpful for you, if it to support me, what I would ask is I'm going to plan on doing another one of these in January. And I want you guys to tell your friends about it. If you enjoyed it, if you found something in here that was helpful, I want to do this. I want to get a lot better at doing this over virtual. And so I want you guys' help. So I am not in the homeschool community. I just know a lot of homeschoolers. I know a lot of people in the homeschool community that support my book, but you all are in that community. So if you could share this next time it happens, talk about your experience with it, and tell people about it. And the more that we can grow this, the more we'll be able to do stuff like this. And I love to see this grow for next time. So I'm going to do this again in January. I'm going to email y'all a link with the finished video in it so you can go back and watch any of the favorite parts, any of the parts that I flubbed. You can watch that too. And I just want to say thank you all. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for reading my books. Thank you for all the kind things that you said in chat. That is very, very nice. So hope to do this again soon. If you have ideas for another session for me, let me know. You can email me. I'll email you guys. You can reply to any of the emails that I sent about this to email me about this. Give me feedback about what you liked, what you didn't like. And then if you have ideas for the next one. I have a couple ideas for other ones that I want to do. If you want to see this again, if you want to do this again, let me know what you want and share it next time. Tell people about your experience and hopefully we can grow this thing, okay? All right, thank you all for showing up. Y'all have been great. I'm going to log off now and I'm going to start answering some of your questions, okay? All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.